Hi there folks, my name's F.1 and welcome to another little review of a prepared and FSX product. So today we're having a look at an aircraft that I've been trying to get to since last year. So I've been trying to get this since it was actually first released to us back in 2018, at the end of 2018. But I'm finally getting a chance to actually get sink my teeth into it. And that, of course, is the first ever release from a new studio, but one with a solid pedigree, called Bravo Zulu Studios, and they've brought to us the Fairey Firefly Mark 1, and so F Mark 1 and FR Mark 1. So, probably should get started by saying, who are Bravo Zulu Studios? So, for those who have been around a really long time, you may recall a developer by the name of Flying Stations. So, Flying Stations were a small team of British developers that actually focused on producing content that was British specific, but mostly Royal Navy specific. So they brought a couple of really good quality freeware products. They brought their version of the Fairey Swordfish, aka the famous string bag. They also brought out a freeware version of the Wyvern, which was actually one of the first. Which I do believe it was one of the first aircraft I ever actually reviewed on this channel, as a random aside. I've got a bit of a connection with that studio going back a little while. But on top of that, they also produced a wide range of payware for both FS9 and for FSX, including the Canberra Bomber, the Sea Fury. They did some texturing for other developers as well. They also produced a range of British aircraft carriers, most notably the HMS Victorious, across various different versions as well. Why am I telling you all this? That's because one of the lead aircraft developers there was and texture artist was a gentleman by the name of Skippy Bing, and he would actually then go on to actually sort of found Bravo Zulu Studios and actually bring to the Fairey Firefly here to life. So I wanted to sort of give you a bit of a background. Although this is a new studio, the pedigree they have is of very high quality work, being able to deliver a good quality product, and especially a product of something that's a subject matter that's a little bit different, a little bit unusual. And of course, that is one of my favorite things, is I always love to have stuff that's a little bit weird, a little bit different, particularly if it's appealing to me. And the Firefly is one of those aircraft that really does. It really, for a lot of people, like, okay, admittedly for me, the connection I sort of have, I'm most familiar with seeing a later model of the Firefly, which is the anti-submarine 6, Model 6. So the F.1 and the FR.1 was a model that I wasn't 100% familiar with. I knew of it, but I sort of wasn't as familiar with it. But I was still really excited when I got to see that it was actually coming to life here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our usual review here. We're going to have a look over the aircraft as it is here on the ground. Then we're going to go through some of its features in the air, and then we're going to go through do some carrier landings. Now, couple of things that I do want to sort of clear off as well at the moment. So this is now this aircraft was originally a prepared V4 exclusive, and we are having a look at this in prepared V4 4.3 today. Is what we are reviewing this aircraft in today. It is also now available for FSX now as well, and the best thing is that if you purchase it, you can either choose to purchase the FSX only version, or if you purchase the prepared V4 version, you get a copy of the FSX version for free. So definitely, if you are going to purchase this one, even if you are an FSX user at the moment, but if you are thinking you are moving forward into prepared into the future, definitely buy the prepared V4 version, because then you get the FSX version for free as well. So this one, so I know I normally sort of say where it's available from at the end, but we'll get that sort of out of the way now. So it's either available directly from the Bravo Zulu website or available from the Sim Market. Now, on with the review. So as I said, as we've been slowly sort of spinning around here, we can go through with showing off the textures. Now, the version that we're going to be flying today, we're going to be flying the FR Mark 1. As I said, you technically get 3 models. You get 2 different flight models. So you get the F1 and you get the FR.1 or the Night Fighter Mark 1 as well. So what's the difference? So the main difference is that the FR and the Fighter Reconnaissance or Fighter Reconnaissance 1 and the Night Fighter Mark 1 have the option to have this radar, this sort of chin-mounted radar fitted, which you do not have on the normal Mark 1. The other option is the other thing that's different about them is that the F Mark 1 has a slightly lower rated Griffin engine. So this was one of the sort of the early aircraft to actually adopt the Griffin engine, the Merlin Griffin. I think it was the Merlin, the Merlin Griffin, the Rolls-Royce Griffin engine. So you get two different versions of the aircraft because as I said, the FR1 and the Night Fighter 1 use a uprated version of the Griffin engine. So you do get, although it is a heavier aircraft, you do get better performance out of the other two, out of the later two variants instead. As I said, you also get the option of actually fitting the radar under here. You can strip it off, and we'll get to that a little bit later on as well. So the Firefly was actually designed originally sort of had its origins in the early 1940s, but sadly it didn't actually sort of get to service until the end of the Second World War. So it was actually designed as part of a Admiralty requirement. Initially there was two requirements fitted for a sort of a two-seat fighter and a single-seat fighter, with options being available. So Fairey put forward their proposal for a two-seat long-range fighter. Now, the two-seat was very much a requirement for the Admiralty and would actually go on to be a requirement for many sort of fighter aircraft. It's not very as common anymore now in sort of like in the 21st century, but in that sort of period of time, it was considered, especially for carrier-based operations, two-seat fighters gave them the ability to sort of, it was always that you'd have the pilot and then you'd have a navigator, a sort of radio operator in the back, which actually be able to give you the extra sort of the ability to be able to sort of range far and wide from the carrier, be more reliable for navigation, operate all the a lot of the navigation equipment to enable you to operate at long distances from the aircraft carrier. So a lot of fleet requirements, especially for the Royal Navy, less so the US Navy, but definitely for the Royal Navy, was that your fighter aircraft would actually be two-seaters. So this aircraft was designed, sort of, as I said, as a fighter, and sort of only later sort of adapted for ground attack as well. But it's to be a two-seat fighter, to be able to have your navigator and sort of radar systems operator in the back here, and then you'd have the pilot doing most of the work up here at the front. So, but as I said, it was an aircraft that was sort of designed sort of, the early 1940s, but it would not see service until it would not enter service until end of 44. So it actually ended up seeing very limited service in Europe. It did see more service in the Pacific Theater, and of course that's the version that we have here today. We have it in the Southeast Asia Command markings as part of Force K, the Royal Navy's detachment into the Pacific during towards the end of the Second World War. It would actually go on to serve as a curious distinction of being the first British aircraft, first British Armed Forces aircraft, and the first British-made aircraft to actually fly over Japan and conduct operations over Japan. So that was an interesting sort of historical tidbit that it has. And as I said, it was going through. It said very limited result. It would actually then go on. And sort of its future looked fairly bleak in the post-war era because it was sort of no real need for these big, bulky two-seat fighters anymore. But it would actually go on and serve as with a new lease on life as a target tug, but also as an anti-submarine aircraft. With the later models, sort of 4 through 7, would all be around the anti-submarine warfare operation. But anyway. So yes, but anyway, that's sort of getting a bit on into the distance here. So let's get on with the actual review here today. So as we've been spinning around, we've had a look here. We've got a really, really high quality 3D model here. We've got the front and rear cockpit canopies both opening and closing here. The texturing is beautiful 4K texturing being delivered here as well. You do have a full implementation of the wing fold system, which we'll have a look once we hopefully land successfully aboard a carrier a little bit later on in this flight. And as I said, you do have the options of, you've got the radar down here as well. So beautifully highly detailed model of the Firefly Mark 1 in its multiple different forms. Beautiful highly detailed textures here. The Pilot 3D model is probably a little less fun, but you know, otherwise still looking really good. Alright, okay, now I did want to mention sort of a couple of things about I did sort of mention something about loading and unloading things, didn't I? So we're going to before we jump into the office, I want to sort of show this one here because it's probably easiest to show it while we're actually on the outside. If I can get the camera going the right way here at the moment. Okay. Alright, so what we do have is that on one of the shift pop-ups, the F.1 pop-up, in fact, is you have this sort of window here as well, where you can actually change what weapons are fitted to this one. Now, to start off at the moment, the weapons here are usable to a degree. You do have the ability to drop ordnance. You also have the ability to be able to, and it does actually make a explosive effect if it does hit solid ground. You do see that. However, it doesn't do any damage. There is plans afoot. So the developer has confirmed that he is planning on making a TAC pack modification for this and delivering a TAC pack update at some point during 2019. It was hoped that it would be first quarter. It looks like we've missed that. We've missed that time at the moment. But he has confirmed on both his website and on the developer forums that it is coming as a free update for customers who do own this one, if you do want to use TAC pack. But otherwise, you do at the moment, you still have this one. So what can you do with this one at the moment? So as I said, you do have the option, you can actually sort of remove the radar, or have the pylon there, or have nothing there at all if you want to do. If you do want to change any of this, you just click change to make the changes you want, and click the load button there, and it will move or remove or add it as required. I'm going to keep the radar in there. Now you can go through here, you go through a couple of different options here. So you do have the option of putting drop tanks on if you do wish to have. So you can load the drop tanks here, and you get sort of a lot more fuel in there. We will be flying without the drop tanks today, but we will be going through, and you do have a couple of options for weaponry. So you can go through a couple of different weapons options. You can have 4 rockets, 8 rockets, or 2 bombs, or 2 bombs and 4 rocket projectiles. So that's the one that we're going to go through today. So we're going to do a bit of a test firing of that one a little bit later on. So we're going to click the load button here, and there we are, all loaded and done. So as I said, it's a nice, simple, elegant way of actually sort of doing the, getting the system going through here, which is kind of good. You also control the fuel loads through there as well. Nice and all done there. So here, again, nice detailed model. I really like, one of the things I like about the textures of the set that's come here, the default textures that come through it, is the fact that there is a lot of this beautiful weathering that's done through here. Like, there's been a lot of attention paid to all different facets of the texturing here, and it just looks really, really good. As I said, probably helpful that it is, as I said, it's 4K textures, and it does take advantage of a lot of prepared V4 stuff. For those who are wondering, there is no PBR for those who are using 4.4 and 4.5. There is no PBR set texture set available at this time, and no confirmation of whether there will or won't be any in the future. Right, okay, enough of that, I think, waffling at the moment, looking at the outside here. Let's jump into the office and get ourselves underway, and get ourselves out into the air. We'll do some flying. Maybe we'll do a bit of weapons testing here, and then we'll jump into the aircraft, and then we'll be heading in and hopefully doing a carrier landing on one of those flying stations carriers that we discussed before. So let's get on with that now. Alright, so here we are in the office of the Firefly, and as I said, it continues on with some of the things that we've seen throughout, as I said, throughout the legacy of flying stations, where it is it's a highly detailed rendition of the cockpit, mostly functional, but still practical and still accessible as well. Again, a nice mixture of sort of texturing done here as well. Now, funnily enough, you can actually go through and you can see, I want to point this out because this is kind of cool. So this is, so it uses, there's 2 different gun sights that are available. So again, we're doing this one in the form of this is the cockpit of the FR.1, and not the F.1. The only real major difference is the fact the FR.1 uses a gyroscopic gun sight, which we'll put in the view. We'll turn on once we're in the air, and it also has the radar display down here as well. So that's sort of like they're the sort of major difference. There are a couple of other weapons systems differences as well, but otherwise the functionality is still the same. But it's interesting, as I said, this just want to point this out. So this is, it goes through, and actually, so this is the adjustment that you make based on sort of for the gyroscopic gun sight, whether you want the wings of your target to actually sort of fit inside this thing, and they're actually sort of preset based on the wingspans of the different aircraft that the Pacific Fleet was actually coming up against. So all Japanese types of aircraft. So it's kind of interesting to actually sort of go through and actually sort of set that, and it does make a difference on the reflector gun sight. But yeah, I just wanted to point out little things like this and little attention to detail like that is just really, really cool and really, really impressive. Alright, okay, so as I said, pretty nice, simple basic textures here, but again, nice, really nicely modeled through this one. Some ways it's a little bit basic, probably, you know, once you get away from the instruments, some of the textures are a bit basic, but again, yeah, that's fine for me. It doesn't really affect my flying experience, you know, for that being sort of, you know, a bit bare down there, and that's kind of how the aircraft was, so there you go. For those who might have been wondering, the rear cockpit is not actually functional, so it's only sort of a bare, sort of a couple of things are included with that, and it is not a functional rear cockpit. So the only functional cockpit is the one that you'll actually be flying the aircraft from. The navigator station is actually not detailed and modeled, so just in case you are curious. Alright, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves underway. We're going to go through our checklist. We're going to get this aircraft in the air. I think this might be a good way to start here. I might just simply get my, now I'm going to remember my startup procedure here. Let me just grab my notes here beside me. Alright, okay, so alright, first things first, let's turn my track actually, what is this? Track off. Okay, so first one is we're going to have our magnetos off, battery master switch to flight. Okay, undercarriage lever is down, 3 greens confirmed. Okay, generator is on. Right, controls full and free. We'll use my track IR to check that one today. Whoop, track IR got a bit crazy there. Alright, 1. Alright, check the rear of the aircraft. Aileron elevator's clear. Alright, and rudder is clear. Excellent. Okay, alright, that is checked. Alright, so next one is we're going to be needing to set the fuel clock to the main tank. Fuel clock set to the main tank. Alright. Prop forward, mixture rich. Alright, throttle open. Okay. Carb intake set to cold. Alright. Now, engine primer. 4 pumps. Starter. Oh, drop a cartridge in. Engine running. Excellent. Okay, good. That was that's all good. All right. All right. Now check our RPM drops. Right, RPM drop. Everything checks out. Excellent. Okay. Alrighty. Nav lights on. Keto heat is on. Alright, okay, so pretty... As I said, like, it's a nice simple... Now, if you have a misstart or if you need to restart, just an interesting thing that we saw during my start there, you do have a limited number of the starter the cartridges for the starter magazine. So you do have a limited number, so once you run out, you do have to reset the aircraft to be able to do that. So just something to be aware of. There you go. Cool. Awesome. Alright, well, I think that's enough of me waffling for now. I think we should get ourselves up into the air. So I think we should do that right about now. I'm going to do... Check our flaps, full set. Right. Set to takeoff. Alright, brakes off. For those who might be interested where we are at the moment, we are actually at Remote Airfield, which is on Manus Island in Papua New Guinea. So it was actually, which funnily enough served as a staging operations area for the British Pacific Fleet once it was recaptured from the Japanese. It would actually serve as a very important naval base for the British in the Pacific Theatre, and also for the Australians in the post-war period as well. Alright, so we're going to taxi ourselves out onto the runway here. Alright, everything looks set. Ourselves back to the center a bit. Alright. Brakes. Alright, everything looking the way it should. No tanks. Plenty of fuel. Plenty of volts. Alright, I think we are in good shape. Okay, alright, let us depart. Now, one of the interesting things, because as I said, it's a very powerful engine in this aircraft, and one of the things that you do tend to notice is it has a bit of a tendency to pull on the takeoff roll, and then again the same once you're in the climb. So we'll probably just have a look at that now. You'll see that in just a moment as we take off. Alright. Throttle up, brakes off. Forward a little bit. And there it is. Trimming out a little bit. Securing the climb. Start bringing the flaps up. Now, one of the few bugbears that I have with this aircraft is actually sort of, as you're just noticing my trim here as I'm sort of starting my climb. So one of the issues that I actually have is that, and it's a minor thing and you get used to it fairly quickly, is that the aileron trim, so your left wing or right wing down, is actually reversed in this aircraft. So it's something that the developers has noticed, and again it tends to patch, but it hasn't been yet. So it doesn't affect the aircraft too much, other than sort of, you know, as I said, it's sort of, you know, I'm starting to drift to the right here, so normally I'd sort of just trim sort of left wing down a bit, but if I do the normal left wing down command, it will actually sort of put the right wing down. So you just have to, just while you're flying this aircraft, you do have to sort of like think a little differently, as it were, while doing that. So it's a little frustrating, and you do tend to forget every now and again, as I kind of just did just then, actually. So yeah, it's just something to be aware of. And yeah, as I said, it's not a huge deal. It's not like a massive sort of you know, deal breaker in terms of not being able to not going to recommend it or stuff like that. But at the same time, it's sort of like, yeah, it's just it's one of those little details that's just really kind of annoying from time to time. So anyway, all right. So what we might do is I'm gonna gently turn the aircraft here. We'll go through a couple of the other shift pop-ups as we come here. We're gonna head out towards those islands over here. Use those as a bit of a target practice, and then we're gonna head towards a carrier group that should hopefully be sailing somewhere in the nearby area, and we will have a look at them. Alright, so in terms of shift pop-ups, as I said, we saw the shift 1 pop-up, which gives us weapons. Now, just a point that I didn't make, actually, when we were sort of changing those weapons over earlier. To actually change the weapons and to change the loadout, you have to be stopped on the ground with your parking brake on. If you're not, you can click load as much as you like, but it won't do a damn thing. So that's just interesting for you to something to be aware of. You can't sort of like, you know, reload in flight, as it were. Maybe that will change once TACPAC comes in, because I know TACPAC usually kind of has the option to reload in flight, but I'm not sure. But for now, if you want to be able to change these, you do have to wait till you're actually on the ground and parking brake engaged, or at least stationary and parking brake engaged, because you can do it on a carrier deck as well. Alright, other than that, we then also have the Shift 2 pop-up. So this is sort of just your basic sort of Bendix King out of the default sort of aircraft, so allows you to actually sort of do some radio comms. There is, you know, the radios, because normally they are operated by the back seater, so there's no sort of radio sort of consoles up here at the front, so that's probably something just to be aware of, that these are not here in this cockpit. So again, very important to have that shift pop up here as well. Beyond that, so transponder, which isn't really modeled in this aircraft, so I'm not going to worry about too much, and again a basic autopilot in this one as well. So that's the Shift 2 pop-up. Shift 3 pop-up is your sort of hidden GPS, so for those who do miss your modern nav aids, you can still get them as well on the Shift 3 Shift pop-up. And again, because of that basic autopilot, you can also engage that if you so desire. But I kind of like flying it like this. I kind of do. I kind of really like it. I do. Alright, next one is the radar system. So the radar system is this one now. I've had mixed results with, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So let's give it a shot and see if it actually works today for me. Okay. Alright, so yes, the radar works. So the only two functions that work on it is that your radar is sort of on and off. It's a click button rather than the click and drag, which is what I was trying to do. So there you go. That'll teach me to look at that properly. So it's either run or off, and then you can adjust the range knob, and that's it. Now it's a very simple sort of radar, because it is sort of like, you know, one of the early systems. But it will actually paint the ground underneath you, and it is a good way to see that. So it is it does work. It is modeled correctly, and it is kind of interesting that it does that as well. Now, for those who might, there's also the P3D's generic ATC radar there. If there was any AI aircraft traffic, it would show up in there as well. Alright, okay, now, I think now that we're going to fly over this, we're going to try doing some of our weapons systems. Now, what I might do is I might quickly do a bit of a cheat quickly, and I might just quickly throw the autopilot on for a second here. So, what altitude? Okay, let's do... Oop. A bit, there we go. Okay, so let's do autopilot, and let's do altitude hold. Okay, there we go. Alright, so just so I can quickly focus on this one. Alright, so now let's get our weapon systems down. So we're going to be doing, first of all, let's turn, oh yeah, so the reflector gun sight. So there we go, so that is there, and it is a gyroscopic gun sight. So you can actually sort of see, you don't see sort of much changing with that. But you do have, it will actually sort of bend and move as you actually go along and you actually fly. Now, we are going to, let's switch this one over, so this one, shoot this one over to, okay, rock projectiles, salvos, so let's go, single mode, right. Okay, now I think that should be everything that I need for the rockets. Now go to arm. Right. So let's see if this will work for a second here. Okay, so we're going to Turn off the autopilot there for a second. Let's arm them. Okay. Let's switch to a external view and see how we go for this one. Alright. Now in theory, now the weapon release is supposed to be either the brakes or supposed to be the control shift M. So let's try that one today. Oh, okay, there we go. One bomb going down. Bombs away. Yep, and we got some. Oh, go. Okay, I think it's the land class must say there's water there rather than land. But okay, so we definitely got an impact there though, so that's good. That works. All right. So next one is that means maybe that's a little backwards then. So that means we've got to change this one over. Let's try this one over to rocket projectiles now. Yep, they definitely work. Alright, so they do, as I said, the weapons functionality is there. Some of the switches might be a little bit backwards. I think the labeling looks like they're better, but they're a little bit different there, but that's alright. So either way, the weapon systems do actually work. So they don't sort of just give the effect at the moment, but they don't actually sort of do any sort of damage at the moment. But maybe they could be integrated into something else. The guys that do FSX at war, perhaps they will be able to integrate something, or as I said, if you're those who are dying for it, maybe you can wait till after you get onto the old TAC pack stuff. Alright, okay, so what we might do is we're going to head out here. I believe we have a carrier that should be somewhere out in this vicinity shortly, so we're going to head out. I'm going to head towards the where I believe our carrier should be. We're going to head out towards there, and we'll have another look at the external model there that we've unloaded our weapons, and as we go into our cruise here. So I think around here, let's cheat a little bit and use the autopilot here. There we go. Flattens down into cruise configuration. Let's go through and have a look here. Actually, can I just say, now this is actually something, so I've tested the weapon systems before, but I haven't actually seen this. I actually really appreciate the fact that they actually leave empty rails and empty sort of pylons here. That's a really awesome attention to detail that I only just noticed. That's cool. That's really awesome. Again, see, again, for those who like sort of know my channel, it's a little piece of attention to detail like that really impressed me. When a company sort of and a developer actually pays attention to that kind of stuff, that's really cool. So, all right, cool. Anyway, all right. So, having a look at the aircraft here. So, again, going through and have a look now. We're sort of in our in-flight configuration. You just get this idea of the size. The aircraft, it's big, it's huge. Like, you know, it's definitely, you know, when you consider that it's a fighter, like, you know, it's big, and you can sort of understand a little bit why it would actually sort of go on into that sort of, you know, be relegated, because, you know, fighters got a lot smaller and lightweight. Mind you, you know, it's kind of going the other way at the moment, I suppose, in some ways. But again, that sort of idea of, you know, having the two crew and actually be able to do the navigation and the radios as well as being able to fight. So it's an interesting design, an interesting sort of philosophy behind it as well. So, but again, looking at the 3D model, the 3D model is incredibly detailed. The textures are really great, high quality. Not PBR, but again, not all developers are using PBR. And again, I'm actually running this in 4.3, so PBR is not a huge thing for me at the moment. It's something that I'm sure will come in the future, but for now, I can live without it. But still, I can appreciate the really high quality of the work that's coming to this one. Now, probably just going to take this opportunity to make another couple of notes. There's a couple of things that I said I've noticed that I don't have a lot of bugbears with this aircraft. One of the ones I have is the way the Aileron Trim works. Again, the left wing down, right wing down is actually sort of reversed in this aircraft. The other one that I have was one that I swear and I thought was actually me sort of just not being able to land correctly. But it turns out that after, and again speaking with the developer and going through some, and multiple users having the same issue, so is carrier landings. And again, obviously this is a carrier-based fighter, and the majority of the operators of this were fleet air arms. So you had obviously the Royal Navy was the main operator. It was also flown by the Royal Australian Navy. The later models were the Royal Canadian Navy also flew it as well. The Royal Netherlands Navy also flew several versions of the Firefly throughout in their service years. Interestingly enough, it was also flown by the Ethiopian Air Force. Funnily enough, they got several ex-Canadian Navy examples. And two of the surviving examples actually were retrieved from the desert, Ethiopian desert, and returned to Canada. Anyway, I digress. So, one of the first things I did, of course, was do some carrier ops. And for the life of me, it would not work. Like, every time I'd land, I'd end up pitching forward and landing up on my nose. So, spoke with Skippy and a developer, and was sort of like, okay, what's going on here? And he's sort of gone, okay, seems to be some issues, try doing this, gave me some tips, and I tried it, and I still couldn't make it work. Turns out that the coding, the gauge that he's been using was one that he's used for several aircraft that he's produced over the years before, without any trouble in the ESP platforms, except Prepared V4. What was happening was, it's just, so in an actual aircraft with a air carrier hook, when it snags the wire, is then basically, once you come to a stop, it then is supposed to retract, let the hook sort of start retracting back up into the aircraft. What was happening was that command wasn't being received by the sim, so it was actually leaving the hook fully extended, which was resulting in the aircraft needing to sort of pitch forward and actually sort of end up smashing in on its nose. So he's made some changes, updated the coding of the gauge to actually mean that it will now actually now work properly. It worked perfectly fine out of the box for the FSX and Prepared 1, 2, and 3. It was only Prepared V4 which actually suffered the issue with that. So it was interesting that so it was one of those little quirky little things that's happened as part of the evolution of the Prepared or the ESP platform over on 64-bit, was that carrier ops weren't. Some of the carrier commands weren't being received properly. But it's been modified and fixed. Now, unfortunately, the official patch hasn't been released yet, and again, probably because he's going to be bundling it together with the TAC pack update, and probably several other updates when he gets onto it. So if you want to do carrier ops at the moment in Prepared V4, he has made the files available for download directly from the Bravo Zulu website. Just head over there and you'll be able to access them and download and install them, complete instructions set up to go. So that's the only thing that's different from the one that you would buy off the shelf at the moment from Sim Market or from the website, is that it does have that fix included, so just something to be aware of. Alright, now I do believe I spotted over there in the distance our carrier and its escorts. I did indeed, so we're going to be heading in for a carrier landing shortly. So I should probably do my pre-landing checks shortly for that one. Probably the first one will be, let's get our hook out. There it is, the hook out, done. Alright, let's get myself in the cockpit and get myself pre-flights underway and get ourselves, hopefully, to be able to do this decent. And hopefully, I'm a complete fool of myself doing this recording now. I'll talk about that. Alright, give it a go. Alright, so we're just making sure my weapons are safe there. So I just wanted to show this. I just want to show this. I don't know if you can see on the radar image there. I just sort of left that one up, left the radar on to actually show you the that sort of the fact that it does actually show up even vessels and AI objects are working. So it does actually show up. It's an interesting radar to the... I'm trying to remember the actual sort of the way it actually works. So so I'm just reading my notes here beside me. So it's a B-scope format where the range is on the y-axis and the bearing is on the x-axis. So it's showing there's it's a decreasing range there, and we've sort of and have 60 degrees either left or right of the aircraft. So it's pretty interesting, pretty kind of cool, actually. Sort of the fact that it does actually work. And as I said, I'm just really impressed that he's actually coded it like that. Like, I just think that's really, really cool. Getting the limits of it now. Alright, so what we might do is we're going to come in here, we're going to turn that off. Put that away for now. Okay. Alright. Execute our left turn over to carrier. Drop some altitude. A little bit high, I think, coming through that. Alright, hook down. Undercarriage travelling. Now, back in the day when aircraft carrier landings were actually made on, when you didn't have angled decks, you actually did land straight. Right. Oh, and arrested. Haha! Probably a little bit high. Pretty sure I caught the last wire on that one, I'm pretty sure. But hey, let's have a quick look. Well, down, and yeah, as I said, so interestingly enough, this is actually sort of, for those who might be interested, yeah, it's the fact that the hook's showing sort of that half folded. It wasn't doing that previously, and the previous DLL, so it's interesting that, and that's what Skippy had to fix in order for us to be able to land successfully on the carrier. So definitely glad that I managed to get that successful. Pretty sure I can feel many of my carrier operation friends going, you should have waved off for that one, but that's okay. Alright. couple other things that we wanted to show off on this one. It's just while we're here. So let's bring in, retract that hook. And we'll clean up the aircraft with the flaps. And then the other thing that we need to do, of course, is that the other thing, of course, important about carrier operations is folding the wings of the aircraft. So we might just taxi up a little bit, because there is a deck elevator just up here. I think we'll taxi up over here because I do have red deck at the moment. Okay. Alright. The other important thing, of course, about carrier aircraft is, of course, often the wings folding mechanism. And, of course, that is absolutely 100% modeled in this one. So we're just going to trigger that wing folding command. And it's really cool to actually watch the animation for that as well. Coming here, complete with, like, the support sponsons and everything, all plugs fitting in together. Like, that's just really cool, and I'm really happy and impressed how it actually does that. So, yeah, I just really wanted to sort of, yeah, as I said, just show that off as a final sort of thing for this one to actually get that done. So, kind of cool. Awesome. Alright, let me shut down this engine and let's get ourselves to give our final thoughts on the review of this aircraft. Alright, so we're going to need to go through to prop back. Mixture off. Fuel to off. Okay, generators to off. Pitot heat off. Nav lights off, generator off, clean up, and battery switch to ground. Done. Alright, excellent. And we'll open up the canopy for our backseater in the back. Alright, let's do our final thoughts as we go sailing on here on the Victorious. Alright, so final thoughts of the review of the Firefly. So I think this is an incredibly well done aircraft. It's a quirky little weird part of naval aviation history. It's a real classic tale of what could have been and what could have been, and how adaptable things became. Especially with the fact that, you know, it would go on to see a new lease on life in various other roles it was definitely never designed for. I think it's a great work for a developer that's got a lot of pedigree, and it's an excellent example of their first work out on their own as a developer. And again, just a great piece of unique bit of aviation history has come through here and been given for this one. So, 3D modeling, absolutely outstanding. Flight dynamics is punishing but good, and from everything I've read, sort of sounds very that it is, you know, a good approximation of within the limitations of the sim of what it actually would fly like in real life. Beyond that, as I said, it just looks good, it feels good, and it's a great value looking aircraft as well. And just as I said, it's a unique part of aviation history that should be celebrated, and there you go. So I'm really impressed with it. I love it. I think it's great. It's going to be one of my regular things to fly, particularly for some different carrier ops from time to time when I'm sick of doing all the fast jets and whatever. So so if you're a fan of aviation history and of something quirky and different, this is definitely going to be one for you. As I said, my bugbears with it and the only issues I have with it are things like the hook and the ability to land, which, as I said, has been fixed by the developer. Just the patch hasn't been included with the installer. You do have to grab that separately directly from the website. And the Aileron Trim, which is in the future, hopefully to be fixed in the future at some point. So Will they stop me from buying it? No. They're just something to be aware of. That's all. Otherwise, as I said, great setup, great workout, and again, TACPack functionality on the horizon. Not at this time, but as anticipated to have that in the next few months. So, if you're wanting it, it comes highly recommended from me, that's for sure. Alright folks, that does round out this review. Thank you very much for watching me. Don't forget, if you do want to grab this one is available either direct from the Bravo Zulu web store via payloads or via the sim market web store available now. And if you are, depending on which sim you're in, you can either pick this one up for Prepared V4 only, or if you pick up the Prepared V4 only, you can also get a free copy for FSX and 32-bit sims as well, if you so desire. But it isn't, as far as I'm aware, it is not the opposite way. So if you buy the FSX one, you don't get the Prepared one for free, but if you buy the Prepared one, you do get the FSX one for free. So just something to be aware of for that one, from my understanding at this time. Otherwise, folks, thanks very much for joining me. Don't forget, as always, to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying these videos and want to see more. And of course, as always, you can catch up with me and all the things I'm up to between videos by finding me on Facebook and on Twitter. Just search NovaWing24. Alright, folks, thanks very much for watching. Take care, safe skies to all, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.